Hi, guys. Welcome back to Unbothered.
Hi.
We, of course, have Alexa with us here today. And then we also have a very special guest on the couch, Dr. Courtney.
Hi. The
You-
Truth Doctor.
The Truth
You've
Doctor.
seen her on TikTok. We're excited because she has a special announcement.
Yeah, she is a licensed therapist and also now
The
an
announcement.
author. She just came out with a book. Please tell us. Well, we're going to learn a lot about it here in a sec and everything that's in it, but give them a little rundown.
It's called Your Unconscious is Showing, and it's the story about how I became the Truth Doctor. It's a book about the unconscious. It's a book about how our bodies, brains, and minds function automatically, whether we like it or not. And the second part of the book is an adaptation of the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, turned on its head so that every person in the world, substance use issues or not, can learn how to heal, can admit their issues, and can change habits that they don't like.
Yeah.
We're
Wow.
big on breaking habits this year.
And also for me, I've been through so much in my mental health journey. There's been the one thing I'm grateful for that I probably is the only thing I haven't struggled with is alcoholism and I've never had a drug habit or I've never been like an alcoholic, and I'm grateful for that because I have a plethora of other issues that we could take a gander at another time. But I have seen so much success from the 12-step program. I've been to Al-Anon. I have a lot of people in my life that are alcoholics, have substance problems. And it's been something where I've almost felt like, this is the one corner where I don't have a problem here. So like, why am I tapping into 12 steps? I almost felt like it was like on the verge of disrespectful to go through the 12-step program, or it was just really confusing. Or when you have shame of other mental health issues, you're like, I don't need to tap into this. This is for that community. I have depression and ADHD. I'm not an alcoholic though. Like, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to like try to tinker in that. At least that's something I've dealt with, like before I could really accept a lot of my other shame with other mental health issues. So I'm excited specifically to talk about how 12-step really is for everybody and how to go about it in a place where you feel safe.
Totally. It would be disrespectful to go through the 12 steps if you didn't have a substance use issue, which is why I asked Alcoholics Anonymous if I could make this adaptation. Something that you said resonated with me a lot, which is that there's shame in different areas of mental health and substance use. Like if you have anxiety, you don't want to be an alcoholic. Or if you are an alcoholic, you don't want to have PTSD. And that's interesting because our brain does that. It will take certain things that we think and place judgments on them. And then we're okay in this corner and not okay in this corner. And that's something that the book teaches you too. Why do you have the judgments that you have? Why do you think some things are good and some things are bad? Why do you go back to the ex you know is bad? Why do you keep the job that you know you don't like? It dives into all of that because humans can have substance use issues, but even the humans that don't are addicted to something. Success, relationships, jealousy, it doesn't matter.
Constant validation.
Yeah.
Eating disorders. I really liked having my quote unquote addictions on things that like I had to deal with every day, being addicted to work, being addicted to like weird eating habits, distorted eating, self-hatred, working out, all of that.
Mine is more so just like patterns and habits that I'm addicted to, that I'm working on.
Like what?
Unwinding myself from. I think like, okay, I have bad habits that I know I need to kick. I have a terrible sleep schedule and that affects my life in negative ways. And I just have been like, well, it's not that big of a deal, right? And I'll kind of shove it off.
And then we enable each other because we both
we
like working till 4 a.m.
so
and waking up at noon.
I've just been that way my whole life, so I've adapted to it, but it's starting to become disruptive at times. Beyond that, I also find that like I'm stuck in toxic cycles. I've talked about that a handful of times now today. I find myself in relationships with people, whether that be romantic or friendships or work or family, whatever, that are no longer serving me. And I'm staying around longer than I should be to prove something to myself.
Do you know what you're trying to prove to yourself?
No.
I don't know. I feel like I'm addicted to independence. And I'm addicted to like adventure and independence and novelty.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've had to look at recently and be like, you're not just a Sagittarius, Alexa. You're dealing with something deeper here.
Yeah. And how does that get in the way? I mean, I'm definitely putting a therapist question out there, but how does that get in the way?
Of my life?
Yeah.
It just makes it really hard to romantic relationships become really hard.
Yeah.
Because even if someone's like, oh, I want to take you for dinner, I'm like, I'm not in town that week. Or I want to do this with you.
Yeah.
I can see you this day, but I can't see you this day.
Yeah.
And it's like beyond this like hard to get. It's the like, I'm not even around for anybody in any place.
Yeah.
I've built lives for myself all around the world, which I know is like a very niche, weird problem. But in turn, it's like when I do feel myself connecting with somebody, it's like, well, I've already set up my life to protect myself by just being on the go constantly. So catch me if you can.
Yeah.
And at some point, people are like, even if they like you, they're like, this girl's never around.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the last time I was in an almost like, am I going to be in a relationship with this person? He ended up just telling me like, I really like you and I could see myself dating you. Where do you live? Where do you want to like, do you want to be grounded? Do you look at traveling as something that's just like you have to do it? Or is it something you want to do with somebody else? Are you going to have a grounded life anytime soon? I had to be real with myself and say, yeah, okay, this is for content, but you've also now made this part of your job to enable yourself to not lock yourself to a city where you could actually build a really stable life.
Yeah.
That you could build a life
away from.
that you don't run away from and that somebody else would have the space to enter.
Well, you said that it's a niche problem that you never settle, but I would argue that it's not.
Really?
And the book would say that too, because ultimately, what is it that you're doing? You're running.
Yeah.
And how many people run? We all run.
Yeah.
We're all running from something. You're running from stable location, and I'm sure that you know the answer to why.
Yeah, exactly.
And everyone else is running from something. So pause and think about it. It's not unconscious. You know, the book is called Your Unconscious is Showing because it's not actually hidden. You know why you do what you do. The problem is, how do you get out of it? The second half of the book.
12 steps.
What's step number 1?
Admit it.
Okay, so
Admit
step 1
it.
is admission.
Yeah. And
But like actually admit it.
like actually admit it. Yeah. Like sit down, look at the last 12 months of your life and write down everything that you don't like that you did and stare at it.
I'm really disappointed that I ignored serious red flags in a relationship that would ultimately be extreme deceit. Yeah, I wanted to believe it was something that it wasn't, and I ignored blatant red flags and blatant intuition, and I've had to come to terms with that.
Yeah. Good
Yeah.
job.
Okay, now it's my turn. Okay. I am very pro once your boundaries are crossed, move on and let go.
Yeah.
And that's the advice I give my friends. That's the advice that I give to people who listen. But that's not always the advice that I take myself. It's the advice that I take myself most of the time. But there's a handful of times in the last year that I have not taken that advice and I have put up with things that I really shouldn't have and am still upset with myself for putting up with. Where did my boundaries go? Or my boundaries are there, but like they didn't do much. It was like a small fence that had an open gate.
Yeah.
Like anyone was coming in.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Step 2 is believe that you can do something about it. Do you think that you can settle at some point?
I mean, I just signed a lease.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm making changes.
Yeah.
I was subletting for 2 years.
Nice.
Didn't
How
have
did
a
it
lease.
feel?
Didn't have what?
How did it feel?
It needed to be done. Like I needed to be able to explore and have that freedom. And I did feel like I was going nuts, packing up suitcases, living out of suitcases, moving around every couple of months. It was really unsettling. I had this thing that I kept telling myself, like, well, I'm at home in myself. And I'm like, no, you don't know where any of your things are. You have 5 storage units around the world. Actually, ChatGPT called me out on it. I was like, ChatGPT, what's one thing I can do to improve my life? And they just said, you are not a greater adventurer because you don't have a solidified home somewhere. And I was like,
Whoa.
ouch. So I signed a lease.
How long
New
is your
York City.
lease?
It's here. I live in New York now, officially.
That's progress.
Okay. Next question. I feel like I'm interviewing both of you now.
I know. I'm like,
great.
what are you doing?
Yeah. Oh, should I say?
Yeah, what
Yeah,
was
you-
something
okay.
last year?
Something that I'm working on last year or in the last year that I didn't like. Oh, I get mad so easily.
Oh.
I also have a baby and a toddler and 3 jobs. So like the anger makes sense, but sometimes it's still totally inappropriate. And I
get
think
it.
it's okay to admit that. You have to. admit
Yeah.
that.
Too, yeah.
You have to admit it or it won't change. I have questions for each of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
3 questions, actually. We're going to start with your body. So, for each of the things that you guys are working on, what is your body telling you about the problem? What's wrong? How is it affecting your body? What signs does your body give you that you need to stop doing what you're doing?
I'm fatigued.
Recurring nightmares.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm in a state of not feeling settled or feeling really confused or feeling out of control, I have the same recurring nightmare that I have had for the past 10 years. My mind just keeps going back to this terrifying second realm that I've built for myself. And I've been to so many therapists about it. I didn't have nightmares at your house last night, though.
Oh, good. I made her a sleepy time tea. Maybe that's why. She's like knocked you out. I am fatigued. I'm sleeping more. So it's contributing to my terrible sleep schedule.
Yeah.
Which also maybe are signs of just like being a little depressed, not feeling like myself, you know?
Yeah. Okay. What is the main automatic thought you have right now about the problem? Anything that comes up for you for boundaries and for you for travel, like the automatic first thing that comes to your mind.
Enough. Enough of that.
It's beautiful.
FOMO. I need to go see everywhere.
Yeah.
And I need to do it before I meet somebody that's going to make me stuck somewhere. It all comes back into being like anxious about being in a relationship that's going to keep me stuck.
You sound so avoidant right now. Maybe you have an avoidant attachment style. We should do that episode next.
Maybe
We're
that's
doing
next.
a series on attachment styles.
Oh, nice.
But signing the lease and like really solidifying New York City has made that feel less scary. I have FOMO, but I already know the goodness on the other side of just having a home.
That's good. It sounds like the next question I have is the story that you're telling yourself, but it sounds like you're telling yourself the story already. The person that you're going to find is going to make you settle.
And now I'm realizing that's not the case. I think it's just because previous relationships have led me to believe that. And now I'm kind of in a mindset of like, I don't think I would be with someone that also wasn't adventurous and curious. And that previous relationships, I just haven't been with people that have aligned with me on that. And that's just kind of a non-negotiable.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. And so what's the story that you're telling yourself around boundaries when you do not hold them?
Yeah, this was turning into a full therapy session and I love it, but fuck. Can you repeat the question?
Yes. What is the story that you tell yourself about boundaries when you do not hold them?
I think the story that I'm telling myself is that I tried. Right? Like I told them my boundary. I told them it's not okay that they crossed it. And if they're still doing it, I don't think I'm telling myself this consciously. This is not a thought that I'm sitting there having. But if I'm diving deep into it, it's maybe feeling like what I'm worth is not stepping up to that level for that person.
Yeah.
I must be viewed as down here for them. And I don't believe that to be true, but I think that there must be some sort of like subconscious psychological thing. Otherwise, I would be like, that's enough and stop it right then and there.
Yeah. So it's not about boundaries. It's about worth.
Yes.
Gee.
Yeah.
We're just supposed to be here promoting your book. Why
I
you
know
guys
we
do
are.
this?
We are.
No, we
promoting the
are
book.
promoting your book.
Because this is the point. This
Yeah,
is what
book.
the book does.
It is about self-worth for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's important because if you keep thinking it's just about boundaries, you're going to keep breaking them.
You're very right there. What's the next?
Next question. Last question I have for each of you. Who is someone that you've hurt by continuing to do these behaviors, by not settling, by not holding your boundaries? What is something that's happened?
I'm even embarrassed to admit this, and I'm still like so apologetic to my friend. But because I was running around all the places, I forgot to go to one of my best friend's bachelorette parties. I got the dates wrong. I booked the flight for the wrong weekend. And she called me basically being like, oh, are you on your way? It says your location says you're in London. And I was like walking into watching like an immersive play in East London. And I should have been on my way to her bachelorette party. And she was really understanding. And she was like, you know what? I know your brain. You were the only person flying in for the bachelorette. The ADHD is going crazy right now. You have a lot going on in your life. And she wasn't mad at me, like, thankfully. But I still, like, will never forget. And it, like, breaks my heart that I've missed. That was such an important moment of life.
Yeah.
And the fact that she even still wanted me in her wedding after that and is still, like, such a close friend, like, that was really just a testament of, like, really how incredible she is. Blair, I love you. Thank you for being patient with me. And she never assumed that it came from a bad place.
Yeah.
She knew. She was like, this is just kind of how Alexa is. And that was a really big wake-up call of you need to get better at taking the time, really make sure your calendar's aligned, and maybe just like stop cramming a bunch of adventures in for the sake of having to have the feelings of stability.
That's progress.
Yeah.
I mean, your friend knows your values.
Yeah.
And it also sounds like you're trying to shift your values because you valued that moment and you weren't able to have that moment because you also value travel
Yeah.
And so that's part of the process too, is like re-looking at your values. Why do you have them? When did you get them? Which ones do you want to keep? Which ones do you want to change? And ultimately admitting things that we've done to people that we care about because we are stuck in these unconscious patterns that we know are giving us some benefit, or we wouldn't be doing them, but they're also harming us in some way. And it's not always the best when you talk to someone that you've harmed. It's not always that they're understanding and they know who you really are, but it's still necessary. Even in the reflection that you just had right now, you furthered it from my question, and you're like, I realized this and I realized that, and I need to do this. And part of that came from me asking a difficult question and you answering it.
Your turn.
I think a lack of enforcing boundaries is mostly hurting me.
Yeah.
Because those are my boundaries. I don't think my boundaries are going to hurt other people.
Yeah.
You
Well, they
know?
could. They could if you make them feel bad for breaking them, but then allowing them to break them over and over and over and over again. Right? Because it's confusing. But you're right that I think when it comes to boundaries, it's finding out why you can't keep them would be the most
It
important.
would be the whole big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm on this podcast. I'm like, leave them, dump them, never talk to them again, have boundaries.
Is that even something that you as a therapist, do you even come and like struggle with what you tell a client something, and then is it something that you have to also be like, oh, wait.
Oh, completely.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm human.
Yeah.
And my thing is human first. I have a tattoo that
I
says
love
it
that.
itself. Because, I get angry. I have anxiety. I mean, I've been with my husband for 20 years,
So high.
but I was unfaithful for the first 7,
Wow.
8. He knows that. The PTSD episode that he went through was because of those years. I'm diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. I was diagnosed 12 years ago. I treat it. And that's a wild story in itself because it's very difficult to become a loving person when the stigma of the disorder that you're in is so extreme.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to talk about borderline personality disorder because I think it's something that in the past year I've seen has come up a lot on TikTok.
Yeah.
People are kind of finally talking about it. I've been told that you can technically is it like you can't like heal from it, but you like no longer qualify do you ever fully heal, or what does that look like?
Are you fully healed?
Am I fully healed in my life?
Yeah.
I mean, will I ever be? I'm not
Right.
supposed to be.
There you go.
But what
Me
is the
too.
term specifically when you like don't qualify for it anymore?
In remission. But I think, the question comes in, can you ever fully heal from BPD? I've never met a human that's fully healed in any way. Awareness of how your brain functions when you have any mental health disorder is ultimately how you heal from it.
Yeah.
Which is why part 1 of the book is like, here's how you get trapped in your unconscious. Here's why you get angry, why you cheat, why you lie, why you get jealous, why you stay in the job, stay in the relationship. And so when you know how your body functions, when you're angry, when you're impulsive, when you're suicidal, when you know the thoughts that you're having and the story that you're telling yourself, just like the process I walked each of you through, you can pause and really, really, really think. But it's that pausing and really thinking that is the most difficult, because when people have BPD, there is so much pain. I mean, an incredible amount of pain. It's not fathomable to the average person. And so someone who has recovered from BPD is extremely strong. And there are a lot of people that remain struggling because no one knows how to treat this disorder.
Yeah.
Someone with the disorder and 12 years of clinical education and a doctorate in clinical psychology is someone who's going to be able to treat it. And
Totally.
DBT, even the gold standard for borderline, was developed by a clinician that also had BPD.
Wow. I feel like half of my friends, half the people around me in my life struggle from BPD.
Yeah.
Because I think people with that level of pain and empathy just find each other. And it's just something that I'm so happy that the internet is really kind of starting to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it was this like scary, the only media was Girl Interrupted, which if you guys haven't seen it, it's like Angelina Jolie's character.
Yeah.
You were like, how could I not be scared of this diagnosis if this was me?
When therapists say BPD, are they always referring to borderline?
Bipolar is BD.
Okay.
Yeah.
Borderline personality disorder is BPD. Yeah. But I mean, online people confuse it, but clinicians are usually talking about borderline.
A lot of people listening might not know what it is.
So borderline personality disorder is a mental disorder, but it is a personality disorder. And the difference between the two is that a mental disorder is usually short in duration, easily treatable in comparison. Personality disorders are pervasive, long-standing, typically lifelong in some regard, a disorder and symptoms that really affect who you are as a person, literally personality. The main criteria of borderline personality disorder is fear of abandonment, so really difficult relationships, anger issues, suicidality, self-harm, lack of identity, and so on. And ultimately, what happens is the person feels so much emotion, whether that is love, whether that is hate, whether that is depression or happiness, and it all comes out. And ultimately, it all comes out because whatever childhood or early development that person was in, either did not teach them how to experience their emotions, or they saw someone else incapable of handling theirs, and their brain became used to having an emotion and immediately opening up the door and letting it all out because they want to be seen and they want to be understood and they want the feeling out. But that's scary to the people around them because it looks like self-harm, it looks like rage, it looks like I love you and then I hate you. And for the average person, that's very confusing. And the episodes can be very overwhelming and volatile. And it makes sense that people run, but we heal when people stay.
Exactly. And what's the book? I Hate You, Don't Leave Me. I think if anyone that like wants to learn more about borderline personality disorder, that book was given to me by a friend that was struggling with it.
Yeah.
And it gave me so much knowledge and helped me become somebody that could be more empathetic to them.
Yeah. The main thing that I think is important, like for someone to understand the experience, is like think about an emotional moment that you had in your life. One where like grief hits you instantly or anger hits you instantly, and then you felt it fully. But then it also subsided. After a little while, it got better. BPD, minuscule, everyday situations can cause that type of emotion. And not only is the emotion bigger, but it lasts a lot longer in us. And we have these emotional moments repeatedly throughout the day. So the average person will have maybe 1 or 2 moderate emotional moments throughout the day. Someone with BPD may have 20, and they're going to pile on top of each other. And so sometimes it's not even that our emotions are out of proportion to what's happening. It's that we have so many emotions because so many things have happened. And it takes us so much longer to find reprieve. And by the time we find reprieve, sometimes we've done a lot of damage.
Yeah, it sounds exhausting.
It's so exhausting.
Yeah. I feel like the internet's finally giving a voice to BPD and treating it with such empathy.
Yeah.
The way that you're approaching 12-step is like really important for everyone just to understand other people and their layers of pain and struggling as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that.
Of course.
Most people do not see the light side of BPD. It's always the dark side of BPD. And it is becoming more talked about online.
Yeah.
And yes, there's more understanding, less stigma. And at the same time, I've also seen really accurate videos of how terrifying the experience is, both people watching it and the self-experience that happens for the person. And so it's interesting because the reality can make the stigma worse, but the reality needs to be shown. And so it's almost like I need to wait for a balance online where enough people see the bad and see why the bad happens and then see the bad change to actually start to say, let me like pause and get to know this person before just assuming who they are because of their diagnosis.
That's why when I see so much stigma around it, I'm like, no, you need to understand that these people are like hardwired to bring light to planet Earth. It's just with the flip side of that, it is so much feeling.
Yes.
But when you feel that much, it's like you have no choice but to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
Exactly. And what's the book? I Hate You, Don't Leave Me. I think if anyone that like wants to learn more about borderline personality disorder, that book was given to me by a friend that was struggling with it.
Yeah.
And it gave me so much knowledge and helped me become somebody that could be more empathetic to them.
The main thing that I think is important, like for someone to understand the experience, is like think about an emotional moment that you had in your life. One where like grief hits you instantly or anger hits you instantly, and then you felt it fully. But then it also subsided. After a little while, it got better. BPD, minuscule, everyday situations can cause that type of emotion. And not only is the emotion bigger, but it lasts a lot longer in us. And we have these emotional moments repeatedly throughout the day. So the average person will have maybe 1 or 2 moderate emotional moments throughout the day. Someone with BPD may have 20, and they're going to pile on top of each other. And so sometimes it's not even that our emotions are out of proportion to what's happening. It's that we have so many emotions because so many things have happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes us so much longer to find reprieve. And by the time we find reprieve, sometimes we've done a lot of damage.
Yeah, it sounds exhausting.
It's so exhausting.
Yeah.
And the recovery process is really exhausting, but it's possible. And I'm sitting here as proof of it.
So wait, what step did we make it to so far? Were we on?
Well, when I asked you to talk about someone that you've hurt, that is kind of towards the middle. And so the later steps are after you've admitted, you believe you can change, you've committed to change, you've looked at yourself, you've made some changes, you've apologized and made amends. Then every 6 months, you do the process that I just walked you both through again and again and again and again, because your unconscious is showing, but you're not always looking at it. And your unconscious is way stronger than your consciousness, meaning like what you're looking at right now is maybe 5% of what you're taking in, but there's 95% that you are not paying attention to, but it's paying attention for you. And you have to go in and look at it, or else a year will go by and you'll sit down and you'll do that list when you're admitting it and you'll be like, fuck, I wish I did this 6 months ago. I wish I spent more time with myself and became more self-conscious in a good way.
Like little check-ins with yourself,
Yeah.
little quarterly reviews.
Yeah. Conscious self-assessments. Look at yourself before someone tells you that you should.
What's the step? We were talking about this before we started filming, and it sounded so interesting to me. I want to know more about the apologizing step. So you're saying that we actually need to go and apologize in person, like get it all out to anyone we've ever wronged.
Yeah. Sounds scary, right?
Yeah.
That's why that's the scariest step too for people in Alcoholics Anonymous. And it takes people out. They go, no, I have been hurt. That's why I have drank. I don't want to apologize. I'm just going to go keep drinking. And it's the refusal to look at the harm that you've done that causes you to continue harming. BPD, addiction, cheating, lying, whatever it is.
Right. Yeah. One of my good friends, we had a falling out, and she's just been in therapy, and she came to me and apologized out of the blue for everything, and it meant so much to me, and to hear her acknowledge all of the things that she had done without me saying them, without me being like, you did this and I felt this. She just knew and told me and apologized and took accountability, which of course sounds scary when you're doing it, but makes such a huge impact on the people that you've hurt.
Completely.
No?
Yeah. And there's different ways to do it too. There is like direct amends where you're going to the person and you're like, listen, I was shitty. I've done really messed up things and I know that now. And here's how I'm living my life differently.
Yeah.
That's direct amends. Then if if direct amends don't make sense, like let's say like you screwed over your ex, but now he's married to someone else, and you going and saying like, hey, I want to apologize, like might mess up his life. You don't do a direct amends anymore. You do a living amends where you choose to never act that way again, to never treat someone that way again. And if that person ever crosses your path, you know that you have amended that behavior and that emotion that you gave to that person, and you aren't that harmful person anymore. Maybe they'll know it and maybe they won't, but either way, it matters to you and what you think about yourself and what you're capable of or not.
That was what you're telling me right now is the most powerful thing I've learned in my life, because I look back on behavior from being a teenager, early 20s, and I'm like, oh my God, how was I that person? I walk into certain rooms with people where I'm like, it is inappropriate for me to apologize because I know that they went through a lot of stuff getting over what I did to them. But I mean, that's kind of how I've moved on and how I've chosen to live a happier life with other people in mind. And I think I now live like a really positive, happy life. But it was like being able to know exactly what I did and take accountability for it. And when I do see a picture of them, I'm like, you don't even know, like, you don't know me. Like, thank God you don't know me. Like, I would be a total stranger to you. If I entered your life now in a different skin, you would not even know it's me. That's something I'm proud of.
And it's scary to make amends. It's scary to make change, and it's important. I mean, when I think about my husband of 20 years, how did I get to 20 years after the first 7 or 8 were cheating, lying, selling cocaine, disappearing for days, like just manipulative, multiple partners. Like it was, how do you change that much? And how do you forgive someone and believe that they've changed that much? And it comes from repeated admittance of when I think I'm slipping, when I'm acting a little bit the same, because that shows him that 100% of how I used to be is horrible. And maybe there's 5-10% that I'm working on. Of course, I'm not selling cocaine. I actually own an addiction treatment center. I'm not cheating anymore. I've never been more faithful in my life for over a decade. And I'd say this story because people are capable of forgiving you.
Mm-hmm.
People are capable of accepting that you've changed, but you better be changed.
Mm-hmm.
You better not apologize and say that you're different before you are, because you may only have one chance.
I think you probably only should have one chance.
I think you should only have one chance if you are capable of doing it in one. And it depends, you know. I think, you know, even when in my treatment center, if someone, you know, you're not supposed to use drugs and alcohol in the treatment center, but like somebody might.
Yeah.
And it depends. Did they do it on purpose? Do they not really want to get better? Was it their brain automatically doing it? And they really are in the depths of the addiction. And it takes sitting down with someone like a therapist and explaining yourself, and the therapist assessing and making a decision. But that happens in relationships too.
That's something I'm not having to deal with right now as a single person. But down the line, that is something where I'm like, if my husband cheated on me, what do I do? Do I leave? Like who?
Yeah.
I don't
We
know.
get a lot of questions about that from women all the time, like, should I stay, should I go, I've been with him forever. Or we got one recently that was crazy. It was like, my fiance
made out with a girl 2 years ago and now we're getting married and he's telling me 2 days before our wedding.
Should I call it off, you know? So would love your input on that, like how you were forgiven for cheating.
I mean, I was 15 15
okay.
through 22 though. And so, you know, when you were just talking, you're like, I would just leave right away. It's like, so would I.
Yeah.
I think cheating is horrible.
Yeah.
I do not condone it. I do not support it. I think there is something going on with someone who would do something like that to another person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some people will be fascinated that I have done that so many times. And that is my true belief. That's my true value, that I would never do that to my husband, but I have.
But I also have this thing where I feel like anything before 25 has so much more leniency. If we're in our 30s and you're cheating on me, you think I'm sticking around?
Right.
Is absolutely not.
And that's what I mean. Are you consciously capable of not ever doing it again or never doing it in the first place? I had borderline personality disorder. I was on psychedelics and methamphetamine when I was a teenager and in my early adulthood. Like, no, I was not consciously capable. But what I was consciously capable of was stopping doing drugs the way that I did and looking at my values and apologizing and changing my habits and promising to never do it again and sticking to that promise. And so when it's someone like, oh, he's cheated again and again and again, like, what is that person's value? Does that person have values that you really want in your relationship and they are trapped in a mental health disorder, or do they not value you? And you have to be able to figure it out. You know, and if you can't figure it out, then maybe it is a waste of your time at the moment, because you deserve to be living your life with someone that does value you, not someone where you spend months and months trying to figure out if they do.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes for every part of a confusing relationship, not just cheating.
Totally.
Yeah. But okay, not to excuse it, but 15 to 22, it's like you're a kid, you're learning, you're figuring it out. But I think a lot of the women that come to us are like 25 to and above. Sometimes you get them from like 40, 50-year-old women.
And the brains are wired. I mean, that's decades and decades and decades. And so it's like, maybe that person could be good for you, right for you, but they're obviously not right now. Maybe try in 10 years if you're still single, because it's probably going to take that much time for them to change.
If they even want to.
It's
like we also were like, oh my God, he's growing. He's 35.
I'm like, why are we talking about men like they're toddlers? We're like,
no.
He's learning how to express himself. I'm like, he's been contributing to his IRA for a while now. Like we don't need.
He's balding. He's balding.
He has a receding hairline, but I'm glad he's figuring out how to tell you how he feels.
Are we almost done with these questions? They're painful.
I mean, a final question that I have would be, the last question I would have would be for step 12. During step 12, when you've made it through this whole process, you find someone in your life that needs to go through it too. do you each know someone who could benefit from going through this process?
How much time do you have?
Without saying who that person is, what is one message that you would want to give to them?
The couple of people that all come to mind is just the same thing where it's like, you think it's too late. You think you're stuck in your ways. You think life has happened to you. You are happening to life, and you owe yourself this opportunity to have a new first day.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine is just like, you can wake up any day and just be like, we're so back. Like today is the day that we're making a change, that we're doing things. You know what? I'm not thinking that about a specific person in my life, but the listeners. There's so many different people who come to me with these problems, which is why we have you on here, right? To walk through these steps and try to help people figure out how to break through these habits and these toxic cycles. And I'm doing it right alongside them, like literally as we speak. Yeah. Maybe we need like a little accountability circle where we just all do the work together.
I'll do it with you.
Yeah.
How long does it take for somebody to go through these 12 steps usually?
That's a good question. It really depends. How much shit are you trying to fix?
How much do you have going on over there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's fair. Subjective.
Yeah. I mean, when you are on step 4 and you're really making the list of all the things you want to change, that's what's going to tell you how much time you need. And it's a lot better to take your time than to rush it, because your unconscious wants you to not be uncomfortable. Yeah. And this is uncomfortable. So you have to consciously say every single day, like, no, I know that this is a feeling that I don't like, but I haven't liked it for 10 years and therefore I haven't changed.
What made you come up with the concept for this?
Well, this book was supposed to be something else than it originally was. And I ended up writing the 12 steps and adapting them because I actually got extremely depressed while writing the book. And I had to kind of pull myself out of that by going through the same processes that I've always known had worked for me. And I told my agent and my publisher, like, I'm going to try to like write a new 12 steps right now, even though I'm like severely depressed going through this process. But I think if I can get myself out of it using these steps and prove that they work, then it'll be a really great book. And so that's really what it was, is I went through these steps while writing the book alongside my husband.
And you
so cool.
Pulled yourself out.
Yeah, it was rough, but they work.
I feel like it's just proof that, I mean, even like people listen to me like, how did you get better from this? How did you get whatever? It's like, yeah, we never fully recover from anything. Right. That's the whole point. It's like, that's how you level up in life too, is you heal from one thing and you keep going up and up and up. Yeah. I think even just you sharing that you were in the trenches while teaching people how to get out of their trenches is really cool.
Thank you.
What was that like to be giving people advice while you were in the trenches?
I stopped seeing clients while I was really struggling because that's the right professional decision to make.
Okay.
But becoming the truth doctor was totally intentional. I mean, the name is because I tell my truth to help other people tell theirs. And, you know, when I blew up into millions, it was because I was dancing around going, I used to do meth. I used to do coke. I used to cheat. And the LA Times was like, excuse me? Like, aren't you a licensed professional? And I live to prove that you can really, really change people's lives with clinical interventions and also be someone who needs them.
Who else better to help you through a problem than someone who's been through it themselves and pulled themselves out of it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I would trust someone tenfold who's been in my shoes and improved than someone who's just read about it in a textbook.
Yeah.
You know?
Completely.
That's why I had such a hard time connecting to therapy. I used to call my therapist a tree because I felt like I was just like going to the giving tree to like be heard or be whatever. It's like I had such a hard time connecting with her. And it wasn't until she at one point got mad at me that I was even able to like see her. She was like, that was really bad practice. I was like, no, that was a breakthrough. Like, you're now a person.
I mean, I've never met a therapist that didn't have mental health problems, whether they told everyone or not. Legitimately, I haven't met one. And some I can tell that they do, even though they think that they don't.
Yeah.
That's scary. And then they're treating patients.
I mean, if it was really bad, it is my professional duty to say something. But sometimes I'm just like, yeah, you're totally narcissistic and ego-driven, dude. Like, you shouldn't be treating these people. And then I'm like, have a good day.
Oh my God. I want to know more about a therapist before I hire them. Like, can I interview? Like, I need to know. Like, I know we're not allowed to know about their life, but like, how am I supposed to trust you to advise?
Yeah.
If I don't know.
I had a therapist that would tell me crazy stories about her life, and
In
she helped me the
session?
most. Yes.
Hey.
She would tell me insane, like personal stories because it was the only way she was going to get me to break through.
Yeah.
She
Right,
would ask me
exactly.
questions and I'd be like, I don't know if I'm ready to talk to you about that. She's like, well, I'll tell you about the time that, you know, I lost my virginity in so-and-so's hot tub. And I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, okay.
Yeah.
I'm down to tell you my story now.
Yeah, that's a pretty good tactic, honestly. I
Yeah.
don't know. I had a dream that I sat on the floor with my therapist, and that helped me.
Yeah.
And so I went to her office. I was like, this is going to be weird, but I need to take my shoes off and sit on your
Totally.
floor. And she was like, okay, do you want me to sit on the floor with you? I was like, yeah.
Yes.
And we sat on the floor, and I had a breakthrough because I was just talking to her like I was my friend. I think at one point I was just laying with my head,
Yeah.
and her head was facing my head, like little
Totally.
friends.
I love that. Yeah, I always do that. On the ground, shoes off, lights off. Like, let's play
Yeah.
music. Show me your phone. Let me see the text.
Yes,
Oh.
yes, I've
Yeah.
sent screenshots before, but that's such a massive difference from someone who is like stiff, cold.
Mhm.
How does that make you feel?
Right.
You know, and I just
Yeah.
so much more resonate with that type of therapy because that's when I'm actually figuring shit out and
Exactly.
opening up, as opposed to just being like, I don't know, I don't feel good about it. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
You know,
That was the thing. Like, I was one of like the 10 OG TikTok therapists back in 2020.
Mhm.
And at first people were like, what are the professional organizations going to think about you for doing this, for like saying all this shit online? And they follow me. And I've spoken at their conferences and stuff because
Yeah.
people are getting better from the professionals admitting when they're not. And it is vital that we do that because then if we don't, the people that are going to professionals think that there's this bar that you're supposed to reach. When you're healed, you are a therapist who is stable and is calm. And it's like, no, therapists are humans. Your goal is to be a human that has a little bit more control of yourself.
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. I plan on going through your 12-step program. And the one thing I realized that when I go through it, I feel like everyone around me knows. Like I become so self-conscious of like everything that I do. I'm like, oh my God, I just acted that way because of this. I'm almost like keeping score.
Yeah.
Is that progress or is that something that I need to let go of?
Yeah. Well, the way that you just described looking at yourself was a negative thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, other people can see this thing.
Yeah.
But being self-conscious should be a good thing. So like imagine when you're born, you get a flashlight to look into yourself.
Mhm.
But like the moment that you're born, your parents put a filter on it. And you never really look at yourself without the filter of your parents, your peers, your society, really whatever you're in. And so you're always looking at yourself through some filter, which means it's in some negative way because it's something that you have to live up to. We deserve to look at ourselves completely unfiltered. Self-consciousness should be a good thing.
Mhm.
We should look at ourselves and be aware of ourselves constantly, not only when someone is asking us to change or telling us that something is wrong. So the 12 steps of consciousness is to ultimately help you become a self-conscious person, but in a good way because you deserve to look at yourself without it being bad. You deserve to look at yourself and at least think it's neutral. And how many of us actually look in the mirror as a high level concept and see ourselves neutral or positive all the time? There's always these negatives. So if we can't even look in the mirror for 5 seconds, it makes sense it's hard to look for 6 months at everything that you want to change. But if we don't do it, or if we do it and we always think it's because we're bad, that's not going to feel good. And we're 6 months later, we're going to be like, maybe I'll wait till a year. And then again, you'll be like, fuck, I wish I did this 6 months ago.
I like the reframing of the word self-conscious.
It's important.
Because the actual like self-conscious,
Right.
there's no negative on that.
There's not.
Your self is conscious. You're
Right.
conscious of self.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's this just negative little cloud over the word conscious.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I was like, why is it such a stigmatized word? Because you're even saying it. And I was like, oh, you're so right. That's not bad.
No.
Because we don't become conscious of ourselves until
Mm.
someone tells us there's something wrong with us.
Jesus. Right. Which we're told pretty fucking early on. At
Well,
some
immediately. Like you're crying too loud. Like I'm 14 months old.
point. I'm 2
Like,
days
leave
old.
me
I'm
alone.
crying.
What is wrong with you?
I've only been here for 2 days.
Come on. I'm a baby. But so
yeah.
we need a place to do this.
Yeah.
We need a place to be self-conscious. And so I'm launching an online platform through Substack called the Self-Conscious Club.
Cool.
And over the next year, I'm going to walk everyone through the 12 steps for free, put out a bunch of essays about the shit that's going on in my life while I'm walking through the 12 steps so that I can kind of be your therapist without being your therapist and be the person that's walking alongside you. Not like a sponsor in the 12 steps of AA, but like a conscious support so you can stop being an unconscious human and start being self-conscious in a good way.
I love
Wow.
that. I love that it's also called the Self-Conscious Club.
Yeah.
We have a little group chat on Instagram called the Unbothered Club.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Unbothered and self-conscious.
Hell yeah.
They sound juxtaposing, but they're not.
No,
Yeah.
my brain just like took me to like a boat in Italy with a spritz in my hand. Like I'm
Of course, but
unbothered
you
and
need
I'm
to be in
self-conscious.
your lease with your cat, not in Italy.
Oh, why can't I do both?
You can.
I'm sorry.
Fine, I'll be in the West Village with
Perfect.
a spritz in
There
my
we
hand
go.
in my apartment.
Perfect.
There we go. That was a great callback. You caught that shit.
Yeah.
I'll be enforcing my boundaries.
Yes.
That will be on my 12 step.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? Also, what are your handles?
You can find me on my website, thetruthDoctor.com, or on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at _truth_doctor. And the book is called Your Unconscious is Showing. Take Control of Your Life Using the 12 Steps of Consciousness.
Incredible.
You can buy it anywhere on Target, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and it's in stores.
I love a physical book these days.
Yeah.
Is that crazy?
And it's a hardback. It's so nice.
is
It's
it?
beautiful. Yeah.
Oh,
I've
I
been-
keep a Kindle in my purse at all times. I've become a Kindle person.
I'm like anti-reading on technology. I don't know why.
Because you read on technology all day.
All day long. Yeah.
It's just either I'm going to read on the tech or I'm not going to
You're
read.
not
So
gonna
I have to.
Yeah.
That's fair. I like reading in a
Compromise.
sauna lately, and I don't know why this didn't occur to me, but I kept bringing in paperback books, and the pages were just like melting out. And I was like, why does this keep happening? Fuck. And then I brought in a hardback book that's like bound by thread, and I was like,
Yeah.
so I'll be getting that one.